Welcome to the shit show. That is the NBA. What I'm going to do right now is invite Bobby to join me, and then we'll attempt to make heads or tails of all of it. But it's a little ridiculous as usual, but it's okay. We'll figure it out. Okay, and let me just text him as well. Let me see. Well, I can't find his text on my computer for some reason. I'll find it, and then I'll let him know that I sent the invite, and then hopefully we can be off to the races. I got a lot to do. I got to update projections. I got all kinds of crap to do here. Oh, there he is. Just gotta find him. All right, I'm updating projections right now.
Oh boy.
I thought I was good. Then the Butler thing came. So
yeah, I had a feeling that was going to happen, but I was just like, this point spread it looked a little too fishy.
I really didn't think that it was going to once they ruled Bam out. I thought that he was going to play.
Yeah. Anyway, we've got a lot of things to try to make sense of here, and I'm still waiting for some projections to update as well. But going to the main plays, I thought it'd be good just to run through all because of the guys out who we should be playing that I didn't have in my initial mix as much. I had Metu already, but I just think I still like him as a value play. Dedmon, Reggie Jackson, both Mans, Trey and the man from OKC at 3,500. Potentially Reggie Roby. I'm sorry, Isaiah Roby.
Reggie Roby, the punter?
Isaiah Roby is what I meant. I know I do that all the time. Marcus Morris, Eric Bledsoe, Tyler Hero, Lowry, Holmes, and Caleb Martin. That's who I had as my go-to list for who we should be trying to adjust with. The other guys who are going to be left by a little bit by the wayside, but I think are still very strong plays. Kevin Huerter. Weird guys if you're playing a bunch of lineups, you can play guys like Delon Wright. I just think it's a mistake to do if you're have a narrow field. Same thing with Luaro Cabarro. I'm not going to get that far into the Atlanta thing because they have enough other bodies they can use, but I do think that it bumps up Kevin Huerter. But yeah, and then we can basically spend for what we want on DK, which is going to make the obvious plays really popular. Giannis, extremely popular. Jokic should be extremely popular, or just very popular. I don't know, extremely maybe strong. And then the guys who we talked about earlier are going to get more ownership than we initially thought, but still not very much. And that's Joel Embiid, who I really like still. I really like Luka, and I like that game. Like you said, I found a way to sort of use that game as a stack with three key pieces there, and then the rest of the way, you could play the different values and whatnot. But I do think Luka will be slightly lower owned than the Jokic and Giannis tier, and very low owned will be the Embiid play. The other thing is that I'm not going to come away from, I'm actually going to get more on, is the Atlanta-Indiana situation. I actually think LeVert's ownership is going to drop, which gives him a better, everybody's like, well, LeVert, he hasn't been doing any this and that, whatever. I don't care. Especially, I can use it as a reason to fade someone, but if he's going to be less than 20% owned on DraftKings, which I think is looking more and more likely, I will absolutely try to get a part of that. Duarte is going to be very overlooked now because of its similar type of situation. And I just love Brogdon still, even with Turner back. I will be lower on Sabonis, but I will have some of him on FanDuel. And that's sort of my general core for the slate. So, Sheets, take it away.
I'm actually just almost done with the post Butler stuff, which is good. So now I can focus on building lineups and being more active in here, but I got to do this first.
Yeah.
Okay.
I do keep doing it. Getting questions about Poku. That like, could this be the night? You know what I'm saying? We keep getting the Poku thing all the time. It feels like the right night to use him from a strategy standpoint is going to be a night where they can't help but give him minutes, unless or if the slate has very little value. So it's hard for me to justify a guy who's not supposed to play more than 15 minutes. But then again, everything's sort of in flux over there. He's only played over 20 minutes twice this year. The season high, I believe, was 2021. I think Roby is more likely to get minutes because they just gave it to him. So I give him a little bit of the edge. He put up 26 in the last game against Houston, which was just the other day, same team. Seems likely that he would get more run. Trey Mann has been pretty good point per minute and now has a reason to actually get minutes with no Giddey. He played 30 minutes anyway in the last game, put up 32 in that game. He's 3,500. Shea, a bunch of people are on it. I totally get it. Go for Shea. Like, it makes sense. I like my point guard spots a lot today. So I don't have as much Shea on DraftKings as I initially might have thought I would have when I heard Giddey was out. If Baisley's out too, it would give him another boost and it would give Roby a giant boost. I think Dort is the overlooked one here. I still like Lou Dort. I like that he got the forward eligibility because these guards are tough to come by. With that said, that gives me a little bit of that gives Mann and Morris more of the edge for the Clippers. Unfortunately, that's going to be what most people see as well. And I'm a little lower on the Ibaka play, but I'm okay with it if you get completely stuck and you want to get that game stack or something. But I try to reserve Ibaka for game stacks. And Bledsoe, I think, is fine, but again, eats up one of those point guard, shooting guard spots. Reggie Jackson is obviously the chalk, and I think it's hard to always say good chalk with him because he's he can miss 100 shots, but he can miss 100 shots and still get there. But I have Kennard and Bledsoe at the bottom of the good guy, the best ones, even though I still like both of them, and I have Jackson and Mann ahead of those two.
Yeah, I'm not going to be locking in anybody today. I'm actually forcing myself to be a little spread today. There's just a lot of options. Again, and we've seen this a zillion times, that with all this news comes in, people forget about the other options that were good options earlier. So I'm just going to make sure that I don't do something stupid like, I don't know. There's a lot of stupid things you could do on the slate. Maybe go 100% Deadman, for example. That could be something bad you could do.
That's a bad one. Another bad one would be to go 100% PJ Tucker.
100. Yeah, 100. That's a pretty bad one as well.
Yeah.
Or
if you're going to be playing anybody higher, I would give Metu the edge over most of those guys. He will be popular, but I just think that if you're going to be way over on guys, I think Metu is actually the most logical of all of them. And we've seen it with Dwayne Dedman. Like, they will play him some minutes in these spots, but we've also seen him have other times where they've done this and they haven't played him that many minutes. You'd think against Cleveland, who plays big, that they would want him out there. So this seems like a better spot, but I agree with not going 100%. I don't have anybody locked in, to be honest with you. I think it's a tough fade I think it's tough to fade Giannis on FanDuel, actually. It's just too good of a price. Like, what is he going to get? You know what I mean? Like,
right.
What's the downside for him here? And we all know the upside is through the roof in the best possible matchup for him. So, and it also he's easily combo stackable on FanDuel with LaMelo, who's a better play on FanDuel, PJ Washington, who's a better play on FanDuel, Gordon Hayward's a better play on DraftKings, but the rest of the guys you have better plays on FanDuel. The other thing I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get on FanDuel some Halliburton and some Buddy Hield in, because then I can make a full a Clipper stack and sort of go for the other side of that game that's not going to be owned. Do you know what I mean?
What do you think of Bledsoe?
I would have him ranked barely ahead of he's the bottom of the big four guys for the Clippers for me. So, or he's ahead of Kennard, but barely. And I don't consider Ibaka in that group. Sorry, ahead of the big five, I should say, because it's Mann, Bledsoe. And I mean, in order, it's for me, it's Jackson, Morris, Mann, Bledsoe, Kennard, and then Ibaka.
Yeah.
And the huge sleeper play that you can take a shot on, which is again, another matchup would probably be more viable. I'm not going to do this probably, but I do think that taking a shot on Zubac, we've seen the Clippers in occasionally these spots where one game it'll sort of be Morris, they'll play the small ball 5. And this seems like a game they could do that, but I could see them going to a little bit more Zubac. The only problem is he's lost minutes to Hartenstein also, so probably a little too thin, but it did occur to me. If I was playing a showdown slate or something like this for the late night game, maybe that's where you could use them. It's a couple questions I'm going to address real quick. Red Pill Al, it's a really good question. The Giannis, Caleb Martin, or Cat and Hayward on for DK I actually think I would lean Cat and Hayward if you just have those two guys, not knowing what the rest of your lineup looks like. I think Cat is going to be completely overlooked and obviously has a ceiling. So I kind of like that Cat play. So for tournaments, that's the route I would go. For cash, I would absolutely go the other way. I don't think it's even close.
Cat on FanDuel is so cheap.
And Cat's cheap on, I think he's too cheap on DraftKings as well. But yeah, I hear you. Where would you go with that, Sheets? What do you think on DraftKings? Cat and Hayward versus Caleb Martin and Giannis.
Got to be Cat and Hayward, no?
That's what I would say for tournaments for sure on DraftKings.
And you know what? This is what comes up. You know, when we talk about this during the day, and even these little 2x2s, it's. And you don't even remember this. It's like one of the first things I asked you when we first started learning DFS. I think it was like a football slate or something. Like, what would you rather have, a top guy and a small guy, or two mid guys? And and you like kind of laughed, like, okay, well, if I knew the answer to that every slate, you know what I mean? Like, I'd be a billionaire. Right. But that's always a very interesting question, of whether to go stars and scrubs, even a 2x2 versus two mid range, and it really just does depend. It just we can look at the projections, and I can say, okay, the number one is going to rate better than the number 2 one, but it doesn't work that way, because you got to have the guys get ceilings for you. So in the one that you mentioned, Hayward and Towns, as opposed to Giannis and Martin, I don't know. I don't. Maybe he could. I don't see the Martin, getting 40 or something like that. Maybe he doesn't need to. But if Giannis is going to get 90, right? It's like something like that.
That's the point, is that Giannis. So Cat can get 60 or 70. That's on the table.
Right.
Hayward can get 40 to 50 pretty regularly. Actually, I think he gets somewhere in that range. So then all of a sudden you need Giannis. Let's say they get the lower end. Let's say Cat gets 55 and Hayward gets 35, and Giannis gets 65. Then you still need the other 35. Yeah, 35 from Martin.
That's not easy.
Yeah, that's a lot to ask for. Remember, there's still other guards they can play, and I feel like everyone keeps forgetting that Kyle Lowry exists.
Oh, wait. So I got something. All right. So this is got to be an atrocious idea, but there's someone who's available on FanDuel but not on DraftKings, who has a range of outcomes of 0 to 50.
Who's that?
Is DeMarcus Cousins is active.
Yeah, I don't think the 50 is a realistic thing, especially because the team he's on. I wouldn't be surprised if Cousins. I would be surprised if he plays at all. I think it'll be like 6 minutes.
Okay.
I can't imagine them doing anything to play him more, even in a blowout. I don't know why they would keep him on the court. He's like the worst. That's the problem with him now. Now he's like, because of all the injuries, because he hasn't played, it's like he's going to be one of the first guys off the court in a real blowout. So it's like he doesn't get the real full blowout run. He might be there for a 20-point game for maybe he'll play 12 minutes. I just can't see how he's going to get much run.
Okay.
But I think it's an interesting point. I mean, it could be wrong. We've seen it happen before. It happened with Houston last year. He played 15 or 14 minutes in a game and he put up 40. He's literally, he has the second highest usage of any player in the history of basketball. Even still, that's crazy. He's had years where he was the 11th man, and he still has the second highest in the history of basketball.
Maybe he could take over the role of the blowout guy from Portis. Now that Portis is going to be a starter and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm saying I almost feel like they would have to do it just to protect Cousins, just for his own sake. I don't think they have to protect him for their own team. He's not going to be a part of this team in a major way.
Right.
It's another good play, another talented guy you can have on the court, but defensively, it's hard for me to. I can't even picture him running for 20 minutes. It's just hard to
Well,
pick.
so to answer to answer my philosophical question so to answer my philosophical question about mid range versus whatever, I just want to like give you an example. So here's like just some random lineup that I have, like it's like in the $4 or something like that. So it's
Right, right.
just to kind of like when I look at a lineup like this, like I love lineups like this, like with no Giannis, no what's his name, no Luka, no who's the other expensive guy, Jokic, no nothing, just all these like Foxes and Middletons and Harrises and Kristoff and Christian Woods, you know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
I don't know if these actually win, but I know instinctively these are the ones that I like more. I guess that's the best way
Right.
to describe it.
I think they do win sometimes. So
Okay.
I have no problem. The only one that's like the thing about Kristaps is he's like to me it's a very thin play on this slate at that price. But at the same time, we know he can put up 50 to 60. And again, the same is true for Wood. There's no reason why, well, especially Wood's case, there's no reason why Christian Wood couldn't end up with the right game flow with a higher scoring night than Giannis. So him alone.
Right.
It's totally in the realm of possibility.
Right.
Not necessarily most likely, but it's going to happen.
Right.
I don't know what, 1 out of 7 or 8 times here, maybe even a little more often than that. And that's a guy who's way cheaper. So I love that sort of general way of thinking. And you're going to get no ownership on Christian Wood. Whereas if he was 7,600, he'd be 40% owned. And realistically, we just saw him put up 62 and 60 in the last 2 games, including against this team. He put up 60. So why does it matter if he's 1,000 more or 1,000 less?
So why don't we talk about these 2 questions coming out of the chat here? One says last slot on FanDuel single entry, Herder or Man, and then K9 Bronco is saying LeVert and Brogdon in the same lineup or not optimal on FanDuel.
I have LeVert and Brogdon a lot together, but most of those lineups have Trae Young on the other side. That's what I would say. I do think it's fine. You definitely feel like you're losing some ceiling, but I think that at the prices they're at on FanDuel with the 7,200 and the 5,400, each, I think you're actually okay doing that. I would probably, and then I would. The only problem is if you end up doing that, it makes it hard to get my other guys who I like. Because you have to play Reggie Jackson at point guard over there. And if I was going to play those guys, I'd want to play Trae Young. So you can't really do all of that together on FanDuel. So I have those more on DraftKings. On FanDuel, I did the one lineup I faded Reggie Jackson in. That's exactly what I did, was played those guys.
And he's asking for Herder or Man. I guess it's funny. We actually have to ask which Man he's referring to, I suppose.
Yeah, he's talking about Terrence Mann.
Okay.
But because of the pricing, but so I actually think there's an easy answer to this question on FanDuel, and it's something I'm dividing them up to some extent, but for the most part, to me, it's a clear answer that Man is the better play. But I would also say that Kennard, especially on DraftKings, I have more interest in him over there because he's going to get his points from 3-point shooting, which it is. The little bonus doesn't sound like it adds up much until the guy you're like,
why does he Kennard or who?
Kennard, isn't that what he said?
No, he said Herder or Man.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I think that let me just double check unless I'm totally way off here, but I would personally play Man. That one's a little bit closer.
Well, with Reddish out, right? You think that Herder's going to play 35 minutes now? I think. I don't know.
Yeah, but so is Man.
I don't know. That's why I was asking you.
And he doesn't have Trae Young on his team. He doesn't have John Collins. He doesn't have Capella lobs and Gallinari tons of usage for 20 plus minutes. Because Herder can literally be out there forever, and there's a reasonable chance he does nothing. He's also a fairly poor FanDuel player because he's so 3-point reliant. Like he had the game, was it against OKC? I think there was a game he had earlier this year where he had like something good on FanDuel, like 30, but he had like 48 or something on DraftKings because he had some turnovers. Well, it wasn't that game. I could even be mixing up the year, but he had a really exaggerated splits because he doesn't get steals and blocks like basically ever.
Right.
So I'm always going to go with the Man, especially against a sloppy team, because Man can get there without doing anything tonight. He can do nothing and actually get there on FanDuel. He's going to play 30. He's going to play 30 plus minutes, and he does get blocks, steals. He's more active. He has more assists. He's going to get more rebounds. He's going to do other things other than just relying on his shooting. He'll frustrate you because if he's not doing those other things for a quarter, it might look bad, but he almost always ends up, getting close enough to there. So I have Man in the slight edge there. Also, you get the extra bonus of, hey, you don't know what's going to happen later in the day. And I know it sounds crazy with all that what we've heard, But I'm telling you, starting lineups actually matter. And if you see an unusual starting lineup from the Clippers or Sacramento late, you're going to be able to pivot based on how that comes out.
Well, what do you think also if I don't know if they announced the Hawks starting lineup. They're probably going to put who's that guy they always start? Not Tony Snell, the other guy.
Solomon Hill.
Solomon Hill, right. So he's probably going to be that guy that at the last minute looks like a good 5X play that you're just not supposed to play, right?
Yeah, you're definitely not supposed to play him. I can promise you that, because I mean, like I said, you still got Gallinari in there.
Right.
You have tons of usage guys. You even have probably a good 12 to 16 minutes of Lou Williams. Can't see how many minutes Solomon Hill's going to play, but like if he happens to get there, it's like the Bembry thing from last night. If it happens, and Bembry is actually assured of more minutes than Hill is. I don't know that Hill is going to play more than, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, and he doesn't do anything when he plays 30 minutes. So I would rather, if I was going to play a guy like Solomon, I'd rather take a shot with a guy who can do something like DeLon Wright, who actually is active.
What do you think? Something totally off the board, something different, not even basketball. We talked during our football review earlier about what to make of Seattle or whatever they're giving up or whatever. What do you think of them picking up Adrian Peterson? I don't even get it.
I don't know what to make of it.
Yeah,
I really don't. I mean, he was just playing, and they gave him a touchdown even in the game. I don't know. It's weird. It's I don't know. That's a good question.
I feel bad for him in a way.
I do too. He was the player of his generation, and it's sort of just.
I mean,
he could have been. No,
I don't feel bad for him because he's a piece of garbage, but the fact that I think he really needs the money to play. I think for some reason.
Yeah. The X Factor, who knows me well, he's asked me a question we're going to answer here. So this is a play if you're multi-entering that you can throw in, and I mentioned it on our earlier show about Gafford. Okay. I think it's so unnecessary in this particular spot, especially because Gafford plays you have a guy playing less than 24 minutes, and it's not like you're getting him for free. And yes, everything lends itself to Gafford or Harrell having a good game tonight. But there's just so many other plays that I like better, and neither of them are gonna. Gafford, even when he plays well, it's not like he gets extra run. He just does well in his time, and their main guy he's basically a backup center who happens to be starting. So I would lean. No, not doing that. Go ahead.
Let's talk about some of this baloney. Talk to me about you mentioned him earlier. Do you still like at all Isaiah Roby?
I do. I'd like to see the starting lineup before I make any decisions on that one. I think. I mean, look, he's probably going to get minutes anyway. But you need to know what's happening with Bazley. It's impossible to say if I like Roby without Bazley.
Okay.
And by the way, Poku probably is viable if Bazley's out as a long shot play. But I wouldn't be playing him in my main lineup. Roby is viable either way. I think he's going to get run tonight. That's my take. And for all the love for Trey Mann that I look at, Trey Mann's 3,500 and all these good things, and I do think he's good. He's a good producer per minute. The problem is they have other guys. They don't need to play Trey Mann 32 minutes like he's being projected. He could play 20 minutes, and Theo Maledon might come in and take over. Ty Jerome may take over. It's just a little bit thinner. I do have 1 out of 6 big lineups I'm playing between both sites with Mann in it, but yeah. Anyway.
What's you never worry about this. I was going to ask you what's the injury with Bazley. You don't care.
I actually had to double check that one. I can't remember off the top of my head. It's just there's been too many today. Right. I actually originally had interest in him, and I would have had even more interest without Giddey. Maybe that's a weird. By the way, there's a direct pivot on FanDuel you can do from a guy who I like in PJ Washington over to Bazley if he's in. Now, there's a huge range of outcomes with Bazley always, but he's 4,900 and he should play somewhere around 28 minutes and has upside of 30-something plus. Seems like 6X is a very logical thing. So I'm good with Bazley in the on FanDuel, less so on DraftKings. But he's viable over there, I guess. I don't know what his status is going to be, and it is the elbow that he's got.
Okay.
But you've gotten me convinced now. Every time I see wrist, I just don't want to do it.
No.
but yeah, so anyway, so like, looking through my lineups right now, I do have 25% Caleb Martin. I probably will lessen that. I have 25% Hero. I probably will have more of that. I have a ton of Devontae Graham still, and this is a great example of a guy whose ownership might just fall by the wayside in a game that we like, right?
Yeah.
And you play Devontae, Brandon Ingram, and Luka at the small forward spot, and boom, you've got a great little mini game stack right there. Earlier in the day, I also had Herb Jones in that lineup because he doesn't need to take away any usage in that kind of situation. So, but I have a ton of Devontae Graham still, and Brandon Ingram. A ton of Reggie Jackson, obviously. I still have 50% Embiid, and I am probably going to end up in the 30% range on Embiid, but I'm going to make sure to have some big Embiid lineups. I don't understand. Everybody's just, this guy's awesome. Like, he belongs in the same category. He's got the same ceiling as the other guys do. He would have to play really poorly in this game, or the game would have to blow out for him not to have a big game. And I just don't see either of those things being extremely likely.
You're not afraid of Al Horford defense?
And I will also mention it. It goes back to my Joel. I didn't double check this, but I would be 99% sure that game is nationally televised tonight, right? Like,
Yeah.
And Embiid absolutely crushes. Now, last year he had the narrative of playing for the MVP, so that was part of it. But I'll take any excuse I have to play a guy at 2% who I think might end up as the highest scoring player on the slate.
Yeah.
I might go in like 5 minutes to try and finish building because it's hard for me. As you guys know, it's hard for me to build and do both. One guy who also you can throw back in a run back if you're going to play 3 or 4 Clippers, which the only way I'm playing that many on one lineup is if I'm running it back, other than with just Metu. But I do think I don't like the back-to-back factor. But Rashawn Holmes is 5,800. Like, that's in like the nut matchup. So I think that's kind of interesting. There's a couple other questions in here. Thoughts on Reggie Jackson, Kennard, Deshaun Tate? That's everybody. That's a lot of everybody we just talked about, basically, except for I'll answer Deshaun Tate. They're all good plays, except for Tucker is just should be treated as a long shot play. When there's this much value, Tucker is usually the wrong answer. When there's no value, that's when you want to try and take a shot.
Hey, another guy you got to watch for, by the way, is watch for news on Josh Hart.
What? Yes, absolutely. That would give even Graham more of a boost, by the way, and Ingram more of a boost too.
And you might want to try that the thing you mentioned before, the what's his name? That Nickeil Alexander Walker.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, that one's a little thinner to me, but with no Hart, that definitely opens up some things. I mean, for sure. X Factor's asking if we like KPJ at all, and I absolutely love KPJ tonight. I love Deshaun Tate as well. And you can get a little mini game stack and play Dort on the other side, or even if you want to spend up a little bit, you could play Shai Gilgeous, SGA. And I like that game, and I think it's, I don't want to say overlooked. The one thing I can't seem to get over is why the projections are so low on Dort. I feel like, I don't know. I feel like his median projection, it like dropped almost when Giddey was out. And I'm like, I don't understand that at all. Obviously, he's got a wide range of outcomes in the way he plays in general, but a 5,600 guy who can get you 7x and a good amount of the time if the games are close, because they don't play in close games. Remember that. Those 28 minutes and those 25 minutes you see from him, you're usually going to see without foul trouble or some kind of injury thing or something, you're going to usually see him in tight games closer to 35, 36 minutes. So if he plays 35, 36 minutes, if you're counting that game being close, I think all of a sudden he should be over 30 on almost, 75% of the time. And I think he's got upside at 50 as he's shown before.
All right, so I got myself a full. Do I have 20%? Yeah, I have 20% Embiid now, which is fine. It's going to be 4 times the field probably. Actually, that's not true.
No, it might be higher than that. You're no on DraftKings. I don't think he's going to be more than like 3 or 4% owned. I really don't, unless I'm totally like. I don't know. People are going to play Jokic. They're going to play Giannis. They're going to play Luka. I don't think it's going to happen. You got a question about your boy Taurean Prince here, Sheets. What do you think?
Yeah, I know. No, I would only play that if the Minnesota guys were out.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing is I think we did lose. Do we have a starting lineup for Minnesota? I don't see
Edwards is in.
Yeah, no, I know. I saw that, but what's his name was out. What's his name was still
Vanderbilt or something?
Yeah, Vanderbilt was the one that mattered, but he's in.
Okay.
Yeah, I would rather play Malik Beasley off the bench or Naz Reid than I would Torian Prince.
Yeah, I think so.
But I mean, he has played some minutes lately. He still has only put up 20 fantasy points once this season. And honestly, for 3K, yeah, 20 sure points would be nice. But a guy whose season high is 20 points, it just doesn't feel great. And they've had a lot more guys injured than they have tonight. JaMychal Green is in, which doesn't really do anything.
Right.
Let's see what else we got here. I should probably get to building the rest of these lineups out. I'm curious where the people are going to stand on the Miami guys, because has Hero burned people enough to where they jump off of him in this spot, or do maybe is no one gonna, if no one plays Kyle Lowry, that's a good way to go on FanDuel, especially at 6,800. I actually like that quite a bit on FanDuel, and I think he's a little price different, but he's similar to Reggie Jackson. That's an interesting pivot or a guy to add to it. But I don't think on DraftKings anybody's going to play Kyle Lowry, and I do think they'll play him on they'll play him a little bit on DraftKings. I don't know. I'm curious to see where this ownership really ends up, because somebody's going to have to score for Miami. I loved the under in that game before. I really love the under in that game now. It just should be a really, really slow paced game, with the exception of Tyler Hero running up and down.
Yeah, I got one for you.
Okay.
What do you think of DeLon Wright?
Yeah, that's the 150 kind of guy for me.
Okay.
It's the same play Terrence Davis was last night for me.
Okay.
If that makes any sense. Almost the exact same situation too. Those guys were both Kings. They had the same, and they were both Raptors before that. All right, I'm gonna run though. If there's nothing else, guys, I will be in Discord to try and answer anything. I just have a number of lineups I got to get to, and
yeah, I'm gonna run as well.
Okay.
Good luck, everybody, and that's it.
Awesome. All right, guys. See you then.
Later.